A lot has changed from today compared to 1990, especially financially. And today, retirees need to nearly double the amount of savings, along with the needing to replace 80% of their paycheck. So joining me now to talk all about that is Mike Douglas, the president of LifePlan Financial Design, a Lansing area firm that focuses on preparing people for a successful retirement. How are you, Mike?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, replacing 80% of their paycheck. Mike, tell us, how can we go about doing that?
Well, that's the challenge. When we look at finances, we typically look at it in this linear way of here's where I start, here's where I end, and I want my finances to keep going up. You know, we want the great financial investment chart that says every year I make more and it grows and grows. And that's good while you're working because you're trying to build this platform to live off of. But once you are stepping into retirement, you may want to consider shifting this chart into something that looks a little more flat. The reason being, the first 10 years you're retired, it's the most active, engaging, physical years of your life.
Really?
Because if you retire at 65 or so, if you want to travel, if you want to go to the Grand Canyon, you want to go to Europe, you want to do all these different things, you need to do them in the first 10 years. Because once you hit age 75 or so, a lot of little health stuff can start creeping up. And that's why we call the first 10 years your must-go years. Whatever is on your list, you must go do them. The next 5, 7, 10 years are the might-go years, where, well, I'll do that trip if it makes sense or if I feel up to it, this and that. And then once you get past about age 82 to 85, it's a little different for everybody, but most often it's 82 to 85, you go into the won't-go years where I'm tired, I don't want to do it. And so why would you want to have the most money you've ever had when you have the least desire to go be active? So what we encourage people to do is look at the day you retire. Like if you're working and you're making $100,000 a year, and June 30th you retire making $100,000, and then they say, well, because you're retired, now you have to live on $80,000. Again, not like, well, I make 100 and I net 80, and now I keep netting 80. They're saying like, you were bringing home 100,000 and now you're bringing home 80,000, $20,000 pay cut because the calendar rolled over to July 1st. But yet now you have the free time, you have the flexibility, you have all these opportunities to travel and do everything you've ever wanted, but they're telling you you have to take a 20% pay cut. That's not necessarily true. If you build a plan that says, all right, we're going to front load the finances in our retirement by really giving us the first 10 years as the opportunity. And then we know down the road, as health comes down, maybe health care costs increase, but not quite at the same rate as a $30,000 cruise that takes you from Seattle to Hawaii to Australia or whatever. And so you front load your retirement with all the joys because the obligations are going to come. A new roof is going to come, a drain field, a septic tank, whatever it is, those are going to come down the road. But when you're active, healthy, and ready, you should do all the fun things up front. And so that's one of the challenges when you get these rules of like, well, take a 20% pay cut because you're retired. That's not necessarily true, and that's why these rules are good to read and understand, but they may not necessarily apply to you.
So especially when you're talking about those first 10 years, those must-go years, how does investment planning factor into the income planning side of things?
Well, for a long time there was this three-legged stool of retirement income, right? There's three ways you get your income. You get your pension, you get your Social Security, and then whatever you're short, you pull from your retirement savings. Well, that was true for like your grandparents, my grandparents, because they got their pension and then they got their Social Security, and then only the shortage was covered by their investments. Well, today, less than 8% of Americans have a lifetime pension. And even those receiving options for pensions, if they get a lump sum option, most of them are choosing that. Social Security on their website says without major reform, they may be cutting benefits in the next 10 to 15 years. And so what does your personal savings have to do? It has to be more of a primary source for income. Because if your Social Security is paying out $2,000, $3,000, but you want to live on $6,000 or $7,000 a month, you got to pull a lot heavier from your investments. So when you're pulling from your investments, understanding the pros and cons, because there is no perfect income investment. There is no perfect thing that all I have to do is give this mutual fund $500,000 and I'll never worry again. There's no such thing. Everything has its benefits, everything has its negatives. And so you have to be able to look at them both and choose what makes the most sense for your family.
I want to quickly ask you, truthfully, how big a risk is inflation to one's retirement?
It's a risk if you don't plan for it, right? It's like saying there's this big iceberg ahead and we have to be aware of it. But we can make small pivots along the way to prepare for it. And as long as we do that, you miss it by a mile. but it only takes a 1 or 2 degree turn if you do it in advance. The problem is when you don't plan for it over and over again, then all of a sudden, bang, we get a year like 2022 where stuff goes up by 10 or 12%.
Yeah.
You go, oh my gosh. Well, that's why we got to plan for it years in advance. That way when it hits, we're ready for it.
That's right. So for you at home, if you'd like to start planning for things in advance and you'd like to learn more about accomplishing your dreams, goals, and desires for retirement, Mike has an incredible offer for you right now. For the first 5 callers with savings of $500,000 or greater, he's offering a complimentary full-blown retirement plan just for you, where Mike and his team can sit down with you personally and create a roadmap analyzing where you are right now and discuss the best steps to really get ready for a great retirement. A game plan that'll get you where you need to be. And that number to call is 517-200-3330. Again, that number is 517-200-3330.